Now we start getting to the fun stuff. And this video, I want to deal with all about being sexy. Yes? It might be very uncomfortable for you, and that's exactly the point. I touched earlier on one of the previous videos about the chakra 2 and how you feel your body and how you see your body. So if we've done the tapping and now all of a sudden you're beginning to feel your body, if I say to you, how does it feel to be sexy? You might laugh, you might feel completely ridiculous. Now, why would that be important? Well, it's a part of us that has a lot of power. And by not owning that part, it just leaves us with a piece missing. And I'm not going to say that you're going to go off and become a centerfold unless you really want to, or become this incredibly sexy person unless you want to. But by denying to look at it and denying to look at that aspect of ourselves, still leaves that part of us in the shadow. And particularly when it comes to our body size and body shape. So a lot of the aspects is sex is dangerous because it's so powerful. If you have to think about any young woman who knows her sexual power, it might be unfounded, it might not, but when you see somebody, a woman who's in touch with her power, the men fall over her. And vice versa. If a man, and particularly, one who you wouldn't deem as necessarily handsome, but he's got the sex appeal. Now, I want you to find your inner sex appeal. And it doesn't matter whether you're not a youngster. I think of one of the most sexually powerful women, perhaps, is Helen Mirren. And she's, late 70s, 80s? Because she seems so in control of her power. And the same as some of the male actors, like the Sean Connerys of the world. I mean, he's walking out there in a big jumper with a big scraggy beard, yet he's exuding something. Now, every single one of us has a part of that. And if you think of one person in the world who you redeem as sexy, then it must have, I always say, if you admire qualities in other, it must mean that you own them. So there's an element of yourself which you haven't yet discovered, or you've buried away, or you're refusing to acknowledge. And it's, as I said to you, we're going to tap on it feeling dangerous to own, because it is just another facet of us. So as we're moving through this mind retraining almost about how we see ourselves and how we feel in ourselves, we want to acknowledge that sexy back feeling in ourselves. One of the interesting things is that it does push buttons. And if you have had a traumatic event, I urge you to please make sure that you've done your tapping on it, or you've at least spoken to an expert that's helped you gotten through the trauma with regards to this sexual element. Because we want you to feel as whole as possible. And this is why I've actually left this concept of it to one of the later videos, because until you feel comfortable and until those traumas have been acknowledged and possibly healed, there's no need to go taking the scab off with a concept just because, it's part of the program. So if this is making you truly too uncomfortable and you've had a sexual trauma, I would advise you to go back to the videos on trauma and to make sure that there is as little as possible response in regards to the trauma. So now the trauma alert for the self-traumas that we give to ourselves. In pushing the buttons, I would like you to imagine, if you will, yourself standing naked. Yes, I know, I heard you gasp. In front of a mirror and looking at yourself and saying, wow, I am so sexy. Okay? Did you just laugh me out of the room? Did you have to stop the video because it was so funny? That's exactly where we want to be. So in that respect, I'm not saying by the end of the video, although I don't need to see the videos, but by the end of this video, I would like you to challenge yourself to go and stand in front of the mirror. Maybe not now, but when you've got an opportunity later in the day to stand stripped down without just looking at the separate parts of us. That's what we do in order to ignore looking at the whole of us. I want you to stand in front of the mirror and see after this tapping, after you've watched this video, if you're feeling any different towards yourself. And has your sex appeal factor increased for yourself? Because that will be my test. Okay, so that will push a few buttons. And let's start some doing tapping. Okay. Even though, tap along with me, it is ridiculous to think that I would ever imagine myself feeling sexy, being sexy, looking sexy, thinking sexy. It's just not possible. I'm willing to work on this. Okay. Even though the whole concept of me being sexy is just so unlikely, I'm working on this. Even though I'm never, ever going to be sexy, I'm working on this. And then we start tapping. It's just not possible. Me being sexy? I can never think of myself as being sexy. Never think of myself being sexy. It's just not possible. Why would I think of myself being sexy? That ship is long past. I could never be sexy. Why would I want to be sexy? I don't want to be sexy. Why would I think of myself as being sexy? It's never going to happen. It's never going to happen. It's never going to happen. Me being sexy, never going to happen. And top of the head, never going to happen. And then take a deep breath. Okay. Now, I'm going to have some water. If you've got some, this might make you thirsty, this concept, because the reason why, as I said before, is because it's such a powerful attribute to have this sexy feeling inside yourself, not for the attention of others, although it can be, but there's nothing more confident than having this awareness of, yeah, I'm quite hot. This sounds so ridiculous, me saying it. Not that I've got issues, but I'm going to tap on them now. But when you really own your sexiness, it's a personal thing. It's for you. Yes, you could share it with your loved one or your partner or, you know, whoever you're inclined to share it with. But ultimately, it's about you beginning to honor that part, because the whole idea of sex, it does kind of start in teenagers. So it's different from the self-love, because your self-love started as a kid, and that detachment and that separation might have started. And when you come to romantic love or sexual love, there's all these other triggers and there's all these other things, places where you could have all these wounds. And until you start taking all that power back and claiming it and going, okay, yeah, I'm coming through with a lot of scars. I'm coming through with a lot of wounds. But after all, I'm pretty sexy. So, and because it's second chakra, and second chakra is unexplained, it is the one where we do have the feelings of response to the touch, to the sensuality of the life, to how the energy flows through. And the energy is sensuality and sexuality and the feeling of romance and feeling loved. Yes, it can depend on another person, but primarily, if you're really feeling it within, not necessarily on an egotistical manner, like going, oh, I'm so hot, you can't touch me, which some people might go that way, but those are usually unfounded. They're only using that one aspect of their power, of their self-love. This is the other aspect that I want to be integrated into the more kind of spiritual, holistic kind of love. And it's a power which women have used for many, many years. And it was something that I could not accept when I was young. I remember watching a colleague of mine do the whole cliched woman batting her eyelids in order to get something. And I remember being totally flabbergasted because I'd never seen it so blatantly used. I'd seen people flirt and but this was like an on-off switch. She sat in front of this chap. She said, "Can't you do this?" And she fluttered her eyelashes. And I actually didn't, my jaw was dropping because I'd never seen it in action, especially from somebody I know. And then I walked out there and I thought, this was a lesson that I did not know. And I'm thinking, if you've got that power inside, not to necessarily manipulate people, but if you've got that kind of element of power, you will be able to do anything as long as you're not hurting other people. And if the other people get hurt and you didn't do it intentionally, then they need to tap. But for the most part, it's the ownership of it and the ownership of the concepts that is so important. And it's going to make you feel, even without you losing any other weight, it's going to make you start to feel more fabulous. And this is what I want for you, to feel fabulous within. Okay, so I want you to think about the concept of being that sexual being and notice, is there any discomfort in your body? You don't need to have a partner. You can even be a monk in a way and own that power that's attributed. In fact, I think that's probably what they do, is they master that part of their body, is that they know it, but they don't necessarily need to use it. So whereas with people with weight loss issues, it's usually a concept that has been somehow unhealthily programmed in our system. So now we're taking it, we're saying, okay, I could never be this. But what if? So I want you to start thinking, I want to think of myself as being sexy. How does that feel? Is it sitting uncomfortably? Or is it still not possible? So let's do some tapping. Okay, so even though I couldn't think of myself as being ever sexy, it's just a concept that just has never entered my brain. I've been so good at pushing all those thoughts deep into the recesses of my shadow side that it doesn't feel like it's going to happen. But what if, just maybe, it's possible to start thinking of myself as being sexy? Although I can't think of myself as being sexy, I wouldn't mind if it was possible. Although it doesn't feel like it's ever going to be possible that I am sexy and thinking of myself as being a sexy person, I'm open to the possibility that I might just change that. I'm open to the possibility of feeling sexy. I'm open to the possibility of owning my sexy power. I'm open to the possibility of owning my sexy power. Take a deep breath. So, how's that feeling? You ready to do some tapping on being sexy? Okay. Even though I'm not sure if I want to be sexy, it's so dangerous. It brings up all sorts of issues. I don't know if I even want to think of myself as being sexy. It's dangerous. I'm working on it. It's dangerous for me to think of myself as sexy. It's dangerous. People were going to get hurt. I might get hurt. If I see myself as sexy, people might get hurt. I can't see myself as being sexy. But I want to, I think. Maybe, just maybe, I could start thinking of myself as being sexy. What if I started thinking of myself as being sexy? I wonder what it feels like to own that sexual power. My own sexual power. Knowing that inside I'm just as good as Helen Mirren. Inside, it must feel so good to own my power. To own all of my power. It must feel really good pretending I'm Helen Mirren. What if I had the same kind of sexual power? What if I owned all my power? What if all that power included being sexy? What if I suddenly became sexy? What if I suddenly started feeling myself as sexy? What would change? Would everything change? The world might not be ready for me to be sexy. I might not be ready for me to feel sexy. But what if I was to change? What if it were possible that I could start feeling myself as being sexy? I want to feel sexy. 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 Take a deep breath. Okay, is it getting any easier? So test it, let's test it. I'm sexy. I'm getting a kind of neutral, but I'm assuming that it's not shifted because I don't think we've tapped enough. So let's just do another round. Even though it's ridiculous to think that me, that I could feel sexy, it's just not possible. I'm wanting to start shift that feeling because I want all my power back. Even though it feels completely ridiculous to think of myself as being sexy. I want that sexy power. I want that sexy power. But it feels completely ridiculous saying this. It feels completely ridiculous saying this. Who am I to be sexy? It feels ridiculous. I'm feeling completely ridiculous. Saying that I am sexy feels completely ridiculous. I feel completely ridiculous saying that I'm going to be sexy. Saying that I want to feel sexy. 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 I do. I want you to nod. I do want to start feeling sexy. I want to feel sexy. I want to feel sexy for me and for the world. I owe it to myself. I owe it to the world because I want to feel whole. I want to own my sexy power. I'm bringing sexy back. I want to feel sexy. I want to feel sexy. I do. I want to feel sexy. And nod your head. I want to feel sexy. And then take a deep breath. And how's it feeling? Is it feeling any neutral? So what exactly does your sexy feel like? How do you think it would feel? Okay, for myself, a kind of knowingness, like an inward, this is just the feeling that I'm getting, inward knowingness, that it's me and my secret to the world, me and my power. Is like, you know what? You don't have to like me because I like me. You don't have to even give me a second look. But now I'm beginning to see myself as sexy. It feels quite ridiculous doing that, especially talking to myself, because usually I'd have a lot of interaction by now with the client. So I want you to just rewind again in your mind and just think, okay, if you have to stand now naked in front of a mirror, how do you think you'd feel? Any easier? I'm hoping so. I'm beginning to think that there's like a playfulness about it. And to me, the playfulness is a good sign. So even if you do have to listen to that song by Justin Timberlake, I'm Bringing Sexy Back, just to start pretending, your body might start to shift its little because and I'm just going to do some few last rounds of tapping. Like, even though my body can't trust sexy because of all the past scars, I'm working on it. Even though I can't trust myself to feel sexy, I'm working on that. Can't trust sexy. Really can't trust sexy. Sexy people have, and then you fill in your blanks. They've hurt me, rejected me, dumped me, all those other sexy people. Can't trust sexy. I can't trust sexy because if I have to be sexy, then I'll be just as bad as them. I can't trust sexy. I can't trust my own sexy. I'm scared of my own sexy. I can't trust sexy. Sexy's hurt me. Sexy has hurt me. I can't trust sexy. Even though I'm beginning to understand the power behind it, I still can't trust it. But I want to. I want to trust sexy. I want to trust my own sexy. I want to trust that part of me that I've ignored for such a long time. I want to trust my sexy part. I want to trust my sexy part. I want to trust my sexy bits. I want to trust my sexual power. I want to trust myself. If I can trust myself completely, that means I have to trust my sexy part. I want to feel sexy. I want to feel sexy. And then take a deep breath. Okay, let's see. There was a bit of a funny thing when it came to feel sexy. Okay, so I want to do some temporal tapping. I want to feel sexy. I'm feeling sexy. Not sure what that feels like yet, but I'm feeling sexy. I want to feel sexy. I want to feel sexy. I want to feel sexy. Now you can do this quite a lot. Okay, I've just got an extra bunch of hair today, thanks to lockdown, not getting near the hairdresser. So at the end of the day, what I want from you is to become aware of all aspects of your power. And this sexual power that you're claiming again, and you're not taking it away from anybody else, you're just opening yourself up to it. It might be frightening to yourself. It might be frightening to your loved ones if all of a sudden you start acting differently. But it's still an aspect of you. It's still a power of you. So same as any power tool, first of all, you test it to see if it's on, and then you have to get used to the weight. You have to get used to the intensity of it. So it's the same as all the other power. It's the same as your slim, powerful self. It's all getting your body used to it and trust and go, oh, I didn't see that coming. And this is not a thing for you to go and say, okay, now I'm better than that person because I've got my sexy power back. Because the more you heal your fat mind, the more you heal those scars inside your mind, the less the outside world matters. So even though being sexy would imply that other people need to know it, it doesn't. It's your sacredness. It's your sensuality. It's your knowingness. And that secret smile that people might wear when, like Helen Mirren on the red carpet, when she's almost a little bit embarrassed because the people are all giving her this attention and, ignoring the young, beautiful future wannabe beside her. But she carries herself with that grace and with that poise that she knows that she's got it, but she's still quite humble in it. I'm not dictating how you are with it. All I want you to know is to start being comfortable with the energy that comes with owning your sexy. So to round it off, I'm just going to do a last little round on being sexy. Even though I've ignored this part of me for such a long time, I'm ready to step into this power. Even though it wasn't safe for me to honor this part for such a long time, I'm ready to step into it. Even though it's very hard for me to accept that I might well have a healthy sexual part of me that's ready to be felt. I'm working on it. I'm sexy. I'm sexy. I'm sexy. I'm sexy. I'm feeling my sexy power. I'm feeling my sexy power. I'm feeling my sexy power. And that was a little yawn, a little sigh. I'm feeling my sexy power. And then take a deep breath. Okay. Well, I feel nice and calm now. So I want you to go and stand in front of a mirror, full length, if you have, but preferably full length. Stand. Take off your clothes. You can do a striptease. No, well, you can. I'm not saying I'm kidding. That's not part of your homework. But the task is for you to look at yourself naked and to notice how are you feeling when you see your body right now as you are. And if there's any uncomfortable feeling, just tap. Do the temporal tap while you stand there. See if it starts to shift. I'm not ready to do this. This feels ridiculous. I feel embarrassed. But really just own the discomfort, and at the same time, you're tapping in to get your body to feel comfortable with that powerful aspect of yourself. And I'm going to chat to you soon, all you sexy beasts. Thank you for joining me.